Since everybody here has mainly been through all of my speeches, I've kind of told you that we should be reusing everything as possible. But now we're going to talk about it as big as possible. If you look at it this way, we use 1 ton of paper when we cut down 24 trees. If you think about it that way, one campus will use at least 1 ton once a week. So think about that way, 1 ton is 1 hippo. So we have 16 hippos in 1 semester just to get through printing. And if you think about it, that's probably a little too excessive. We have so many ways where we overuse water, we overuse our power, we overuse everything, yet we don't overuse the stuff we're about to throw out. Our state of mind when it comes to our global society is reaching to a point where our global state is decaying, and we need to fix something about that. Things need to change, and we need to reduce, reuse, and recycle. There are many ways where we can reduce, reuse, and cycle in our own life. So we're first going to start by reducing our carbon footprint. It's just a simple, easy way where we can find ways in our life where we can make it simple and cut down on the print that we're making to our society. And then we can reuse some stuff, because I know there's some things in your garbage that you probably threw out that we can use for different uses. And I've been doing those uses when it comes to t-shirts and duct tape. We have many more uses when it comes to cardboard and straws and so much more. And last but not least, we do have recycling, and we're going to learn the proper way to recycle, ways to actually organize your recycling, as well as get some uses for things you never knew you could. So let's start with reducing our carbon footprint. So there are many ways that we can do that, and the first thing sounds weird and stated by Huffington Post from the Matchbook, and it says that we should stop or at least bring down eating meat. 1 pound of ground beef takes 5,000 gallons of water to make. Think about it that way. I have 4 pounds of meat there, so that's like 20,000 gallons of water. That's kind of crazy, and it's a little too much. So if we think about it, there's probably other ways we can get meat, because I know that we can't stop eating meat. But there's a way where we can at least cut it down, or at least work with our society and work with our selling system where we can decrease the type of meat that we have. And we should be using it properly and getting more of the actual meat instead of trying to water it down and doing it that way. If we cut it down and make it simple, we can have the life we have, and we can definitely decrease world hunger by 2030, as stated by the Huffington Post in 2017. If we just find a way to make the meat kind of stay and not water it down, there's a better way to get through that. And the next thing we do is unplug our devices. I know you're thinking we leave our plugs, but we turn it off, or we turn the switch off, but does it really save power? Unfortunately, it doesn't. $19.2 billion a year is used by quote unquote vampire power. So when you think that you're not using your electronics, make sure you do unplug it, because that's actually kind of using some money that you could have put for something else, like maybe some duct tape. You never know. So, or maybe with this, maybe make a plant garden or a rain garden. What the thing you can do with that is, because it takes the carbon and it eats up the carbon. So any kind of work is helping. And if you use rain, then you're just using 2 for 2 and cutting that squared away. The best way to use our rain is to just make food for us, so we don't buy food, less food is being made, less meat is being made, and then we have things simpler than that. Unfortunately, we can't grow cows, but we can get rid of some of the couple things that we do buy at the garden. So the next thing we're going to talk about is reusing, because reusing is something that we need to do. If you think about it this way, has anybody used a plastic straw within this week? Because in one day, unfortunately in one day, 5 million straws are being used every single day. And it is disgusting, it is unfortunate. We will never rid straws from this planet. It is disgusting, and it's kind of creepy if you think about it. We will never ever be able to get rid of straws from the planet, period. So the best way we can do it is finding different uses for straws, or rewashing straws, or just not buying straws. As a server at a restaurant, I make sure to ask my customers if they want a straw instead of just throwing out straws, because that's just more trash for someone else to throw, and it's just something that no one else is using. And if I break any straws at work, I usually tend to take them home, and I use it for many uses. I use them for blow paint, I use it for kind of stuffing things when I need to get into smaller things when it comes to cooking. I can unclog some bottles when it comes to my shampoo. There's many uses for straws, and it's just not being seen. And if we use all the uses with all straws, we can keep on going. And the next thing we use is cardboard. So much cardboard is used on a constant day-to-day basis that we realize that we can use it for many other things. Cardboard is used too much and is produced about 17 billion times a year. Yes, so if you think about it this way, it covers the planet 14 times. That's disgusting. And if you think about it, cardboard gets soggy and it gets icky. But we should use that ickiness for something else. So for example, I use it for a dish rack. I find a way to cut it, make it lean, so you can have all your plates out, get all your silverware dried out, and then you can just throw out your cardboard and say you actually used it, instead of just having it sit in the corner and just waiting for it to burn or waiting for it to go somewhere else. Why not have someone else use it? So let's use it for ourselves. And last but not least, the best way for the reusement is having a three-way process when it comes to clearing out your monthly house. So for example, at the end of the month, I tend to do three things. I either sell or donate stuff, like give it to Goodwill or find a way to get another couple bucks. The second one, I would say, my apologies. The second one I would say is to either find a second use for it or either find something way anybody else can use for it. And then last but not least is throwing it out properly. And some people don't realize that there are things that we can't recycle. And that's where it comes to this way. Before I do go to the third point, let's realize that there are some animals that do get harmed some animals tend to get hurt when it comes to the recycling that we don't tend to do. So we see in these pictures that we have a straw that is unfortunately lodged in a turtle, and it kind of went viral. But I'm happy it went viral because things are now being changed. There are so many sites that are making straws, trying to get it banned in other countries, and it's not too soon, but unfortunately we just have to be a little bit smarter about it. And then we see in this one that there's just like so much debris and so much like unused recycling that is in like the carcass, and it's unfortunate that has to be seen that way. But now if we look at it in a better way, let's try to not decay, but try to make it hooray and try to make it a little bit better by recycling. And there's many ways to do it, but knowing the things that can and cannot be recycled is where it starts. So for example, if you think about it, diapers can't be recycled. Shocker, I know. If you think about other things, Pyrex glass cannot be recycled. Canned foods cannot be recycled, but the cans around a can. You can't have soggy cardboard, but there's regular cardboard. It gets very specific, but if you go to set sites, they will be able to directly bring you to the right places where you can either recycle set oils, like makeups, tins, everything. Anything can have a second use, either you use it or someone else knows the best place for it. So there's other sites that can definitely do that for you. So, and then the second thing you do is using the recycled products. So for example, you'll see some papers that say that they are printing on new recycled paper, 100% recycled paper, or napkins with 100% recycled paper. Known fact that WIU has forks that are made out of potatoes. That's a form of recycling, and it's perfect, and you can actually eat it. You shouldn't, but some people do. But with that, another thing that we can do is just make sure that we find the best way to keep on going. We have to keep nature in mind, because that's who we're trying to take care of for the future. So I know we've kind of looked in many ways to recycle, just a little bit. So we found ways to reduce our carbon footprint, because that needs to stop, because so much water is being used. We also found ways to reuse, like cardboard and straws and other things and such. And last but not least, we learned to recycle. We learned the proper ways to learn how to recycle, where to recycle, and there's sites that can help us with that. Thank you very much for being here for this situation, because I know recycling has kind of always been at mind for everybody, but has never been very in their face. And I hope you understand that there's a lot of plastic and there's a lot of cardboard, a lot of paper, a lot of plastic bags everywhere. So if you see that plastic bag, pick it up. If you see that plastic box, or if you see the paper box, pick it up or find another use for it. If you have that idea for another box, or you have an idea for another second use for something, like a bottle, find it. There's always something cool, a new invention you can make, and something you can DIY yourself. So thank you again for being here to really keep nature in mind, because that's what we're trying to do. Keep nature here as long as we can. Thank you.